Hey, welcome back to another episode of Mixing a Prog Album Live. This is episode 34, and we are finally starting the final song of AfterWinter's second album, Boundless. So we should be done here in a few episodes. Definitely looking forward to getting into this one and getting it sounding the way we want it to sound, and then starting kind of the final steps for this album. Definitely an exciting period. Hey, if you're one of our new subscribers, huge thank you for subscribing. We just broke 170, which means we have gained more than 20 new subscribers since this series started. That is huge for us, so thank you. If you are a new subscriber, we really hope that you like what you hear and what you see. And of course, if you thank one, you got to thank the other. If you are a long-time subscriber, thank you as well. Seriously, it means a lot to us. The support that we've had over the years has been amazing, and we really appreciate it. To all of you guys, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got going on today. Here we go. Today's going to be another slightly shorter one, probably only a little less than an hour today, but we're still going to try and get as much work done as we can. So we are looking at the project for track 11, Absolution, which is the final song. This one is going to take a while because it's got a lot of stuff in it, and it is kind of long, but we're going to try and get going. So I've got this thing routed off stream. So we should be able to jump right into our context mix. I want to do a last kind of check just to make sure that you guys will be hearing this. Looks like you should. We're going to check that to make sure once we start playing stuff too. All right, so our context mix is set up like always. We've got everything turned off in the song except for the bass drum and the snare reverb. And we're going to start bringing in things one by one until we've got it all in there. Dad says, what guitar is used in this one? Good question. This is one of the two Drop C songs, so this would have been the Jackson Warrior. And I'm pretty sure both James and I were using a Jackson Warrior. Just by total coincidence, he and I have a guitar that looks exactly the same. The longtime followers should recognize this guy. I've used this guitar for ages and ages. We used it in Right Way to Nowhere, used it in the band before Afterwinter, used it in plenty in Afterwinter as well. And James has a guitar that looks exactly like this too. So for both of us, it would have been this. Leads and all. So rhythms and leads, everything would have been this guitar in this song. Not sure about the clean guitars. Clean guitars might have still been this one, being that it's in the right tuning, but I'm not sure. Might have used like the normal clean guitars. For the bass, this would have been the Axe bass, right? The Cort Axe bass, I think, was the Drop C one for this whole album. All right, let me play a little bit here, and we'll make sure that you guys are hearing this. Yeah. We're starting every stream with a system overload nowadays. Yeah. Okay, so as normal, snare, kick, snare reverb, all the good stuff. We're going to start bringing stuff in one by one. Now, we got a lot of stuff to bring in on this one, so it's going to take a while, but we're going to start by bringing in the overheads, then switch over to toms, then get the bass, then the guitars, and we'll just keep on going until we've got it all. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll just start right where we are here. jump back to the beginning to get James' center rhythm. Jump up to a chorus and get the clean guitars. Just wanted to hear what all was going on in there. I think I want to add a delay to the main clean guitar. There's usually one on there, but for some reason there wasn't this time. Let's just do, just a simple echo. We don't need this to be anything fancy, and it doesn't need to be real strong. Yeah, that sounded a lot cooler once the reverb was in there. It's definitely going to take some work to really get sitting right, but we're okay at the moment.
Hurt will end. Moving on doesn't mean you have to forget.
Nice, okay. And I think all we have left then is the nature sounds. As we discussed last time, this part is just going to be tricky. It depends on where we end up putting it. For now, I think we will put it at 0. And then on the sound effects master, we're going to go ahead and put a gain on there that boosts it by another 6. And we'll just kind of see where that ends up hitting it as far as like around -7. It may not be in exact. Okay, so let me... we need to stick everything at either a 0.5 or a 0.0. So let me just kind of jump back to the beginning of the song and hit play. And I can do that while we're ensuring that everything feels pretty decent before we move on. Well, those vocals were all way too loud.
How do I move on from this pain? Am I allowed to stumble on, though it remains? Here it says, I am changed.
Okay, I think we got it all. Yeah, so Dad says, speaking as someone who recently experienced a huge loss, I have to say there are a lot of lyrics in this song that are spot on. Yeah, I was definitely trying. This one, by the time we got to lyrics, we knew that this was the last song on the album. And I wrote the lyrics in order. So this was the last one that had lyrics written for it. So I was definitely struggling with, how do we wrap this up? You know what I mean? How do we kind of tie a nice bow on this and summarize, but also not leave with this kind of like hole or feeling like everything is terrible. And also we had the title Absolution that we all liked, and I wasn't really sure. Actually, there was a point that me and James and Eli were in here listening to stuff. Maybe it was the day we did all the gang vocals and the glass shattering and stuff. And I mentioned that. No, it must have been before that. I don't remember what we were doing, but it was before that because everything was written and the vocals were recorded already by that point. So it must have been before that. Anyway, and I mentioned to them, I don't know what to make Absolution about. And I don't remember which one of them was. Might have been Eli. Googled it and read the description, and that kind of worked out. You know, seeking forgiveness for your sins or being granted forgiveness for your sins, or what really caught me was something along the lines of being given permission to move on. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's it exactly. That's perfect for what this is. Giving yourself permission to move on from a huge loss or, you know, really bad pain or trauma of any type, even not just loss, any type, trauma of any type. How do you move past that, especially if you know you did something really bad? You know, kind of going back into what regression talked about. How was the character that really badly injured the child in the car crash supposed to forgive himself for, you know, kind of ruining that kid's life? How do you move on beyond this? This seems to be something that actually, in retrospect, AfterWinter tackles a lot, actually. How do we feel okay still after all of this? And, you know, it's hard to say for sure that we hit the answer on the head, because I feel like it's probably different for everybody. Excuse me. But I was trying to draw on that, you know, not only the loss of Jerry and Harry and Grandpa and, I mean, everybody that we lost, and that's to say nothing of people that other members of the band and extended family lost during this time period. Not only dealing with that, but the feeling of like wearing a mask everywhere, no matter what you're doing or who you're talking to, feeling like you have to put on this character to seem normal, you know, and all of that. What are we supposed to do with this? You know what I mean? And it's a tough subject no matter what you do. But I feel like I got some of that right, I hope. I'm glad you're saying that it was spot on, because I'm only hoping, you know what I mean? Hoping that anything I say or write down makes sense, let alone maybe speaks to somebody. I can only hope. Okay, so speaking of moving on with the mix here, the next thing that we need to do is get all of our submasters and master faders peaking at no higher than -7. And this time I have ensured, while I was just talking right there, that I've turned off all of the effects on the master channels so that we don't have to do this a bunch of times because I've forgotten to do it. So we got to listen to the whole thing from start to finish, and we're going to take a look at the peak meters, adjust. We may need to take another whole listen through too. Yeah, we usually do, and it's the listen through that's like wildly unbalanced and sounds pretty much hilarious. But we got to get all these master faders sitting at -7 and then redo the context mix with the master faders again. Now again, we may not have time to get back to finishing the context mix with the master faders because I didn't have enough cancellations for this to be a hour and a half long stream. So we're going to get as much done as we can. Let's go ahead and... what's Dad says, how on earth were we able to afford to get Jordan Rudess to play that keyboard solo? Yeah. Yeah, Sam was pulling out all the stops on the solos on this one. There's a bit less keyboard solos than guitar solos on this album, but Sam was not messing around. That is for sure. All right, so let's give this thing a listen through front to back. Yeah, so I don't think we need to listen to the entire nature sounds part. There's nothing that's louder than what we're hearing right now. And we're up to 13 on that, so it's not quite 7, but I think it'll be okay. All right, let's take a look at what we hit with everything. All right, so our kick and snare only got up to 8.3. That's okay, so we don't have any snare fills that are jumping above 7. That's kind of a nice change. Our toms hit 12.5, so we need to go up 5.5 for them. That would put us at -9 right there, I think. Our overheads hit 14.5, so they need to go up 7.5. I think that puts them there, I think. Our bass hit 16.5, so that would be 9.5. So that actually needs to go to a positive number there. That's interesting. Guitars hit 14, so we need to go up by 7. There we go. I'm not feeling super confident in my negative numbers math today. I hope all of this is right. Clean guitars also hit 14, so they need to go up by 7. The pianos hit 16.5, so they need to go up 9.5 again. Actually, we can pretty easily make that determination right there. The strings hit 21.5, quite low in this one. And this is not the big old orchestra thing. This is just the regular strings. Hit 21.5, so they need to go up 14.5. It's convenient. We actually had a slider at 14.5, or negative 14.5. Our big orchestra thing hit 7.9, so we're pretty much there with them. We can just go up just a hair. Okay, our leads hit 12.5, so they need to go up 5.5. Should put them there. Oh. There we go. I accidentally hit a weird button there. Okay. Our vocals hit 12.8. I always got to add 6 to whatever that number says. So that'd be 12.5, really. So they need to go up 5.5. There we go. And then we need to adjust these a little bit downwards. I always put them where they normally end up. And then our background vocals hit 12. So they just need to go up by 5. Okay. Nature sounds will leave as is. Okay, so we need to do another listen. Now, I think I normally turn this down for you guys because this, we've just unbalanced our context mix pretty bad. So we're just trying to get everything to hit -7, which means that stuff is all out of whack. This listen through is always kind of weird, but it's all right. We just got to get through it, and then we redo our context mix using the master faders. So let's give this thing one more listen, and that is probably about all we will have time for today. There we go. Okay, so for anybody who just came in the middle of that, I noticed the viewer number kind of going up and down. If you came in the middle of that, that was our context mix listen, where we're trying to get everything to hit -7. Yes, it was pretty out of balance. That was intentional. So now we need to check each of our submasters and masters to make sure they've hit -7, and if they have, we can turn them off so that we can come back next time to do our context mix with the master faders. So first off, our toms master hit 7.2. That's good. Overhead master, 7.2. Awesome. Bass guitar master, 7 right on the dot. Okay. Rhythm guitars, 7.3. Clean guitars, 7.2. Pianos only hit 8. Okay, not sure how that happened, but if we turn them up another decibel, that ought to fix that. Probably just had my negative numbers math a little bit wrong. That's no big deal. We'll go ahead and turn that off. Our orchestra hit 7 right on the dot. The big ending orchestra, 7.4. Good with that. Our leads hit 7 right on the dot. Lead vocals hit 7.2. Perfect. Background vocals hit 7.4. And then our nature effects we know didn't hit 7, but that's okay. Excuse me. We'll go ahead and turn those off. Awesome. Okay, so our mix is now back down to just bass drum and snare, which is normal. All right, unfortunately, that's all the time that I have to stream today. I was hoping we'd get a little bit of a longer time, but this is all we ended up with. At the moment, I've got no cancellations tomorrow, so probably no stream tomorrow unless something weird happens last minute. So the next time we will for sure be streaming is Thursday. So we will probably start streaming on Thursday right around 12:30 p.m. So an afternoon stream we share on Thursday afternoon. We'd be love to have you. This one is long. It's got a lot of stuff in it. It's going to take a minute. Already I'm hearing there's not really a great way to balance everything without volume automation. So we are really going to have to dig into this one to make sure that all the things come up and down at the right points and everything sounds right. But I'm looking forward to it. This is one that, we've only ever heard, the band has heard the tracking mix a billion times, and there's not really any volume automation on a tracking mix. So I'm really looking forward to hearing this one sound the way we've made all the other ones on the album sound so far. I think it's going to be really neat. Okay. Yep, I think we're good to go. So I've saved everything. We should be good to go for probably Thursday afternoon. All right, whether you're watching right now, whether you were watching before, whether you're watching this in the future, when this is not live, I and everybody in AfterWinter appreciates every second of time that you spend checking this stuff out, whether you're just hearing the streams or whether you're listening to the music on a streaming service or by a CD. Any of that stuff is absolutely amazing, and the support is just absolutely mind-boggling. We love all of you guys for that. Thank you so much for checking that out. Real quick, James just commented, I really like this part a lot. Yes, awesome. Yeah, this song's got a lot of really neat parts in it, too. There's not a huge amount of singing, which I feel like some people, it's gonna rub some people the wrong way a little bit, but oh well. I love it. Yes, so probably Thursday afternoon. Hope to catch you guys all there, unless we end up with some cancellations last second Wednesday, in which case I'll be posting links so you all know. If you're subscribed, you should get a notification. So maybe tomorrow, but probably not. Probably Thursday afternoon, we will be back getting this thing going even